Good morning, this is the morning for August 11th, 2026. I'm Matthew Cullen, filling in for Sam Sifton this week. Let's begin with the midterms. Primary voting is underway in 6 states, and today is the busiest remaining election day before the big one in November. Voters across those states will weigh in on dozens of races, shaping what both parties stand for. It's easy to feel lost in the mess, so I want to focus on 3 crucial races that each pose a different question for the American electorate. First, in Minnesota, Representative Angie Craig, a moderate who represents a purple suburban district in Congress, is battling Peggy Flanagan, the state's progressive lieutenant governor, for the Democratic nomination to a Senate seat. The moderate argues she is more electable, while the progressive is pushing Democrats to distance themselves from corporate donors and Israel. This dynamic echoes last week's Democratic primary in Michigan, where the lefty candidate won. Craig contends that Flanagan is too closely associated with a fraud scandal involving the state's social services system to win statewide, a claim she backs with details about the scandal that has rocked the Democratic-run state government. The race is also shaped by the Trump administration's deadly immigration crackdown this winter, which convulsed the state and continues to influence the debate. Second, in South Carolina, Republicans will vote today on a replacement for Senator Lindsey Graham, who died last month. His sister, Darlene Graham, has already taken over his seat on a temporary basis and is now running to keep it full-time. President Trump has endorsed her. Darlene Graham is respected in the state for helping people with disabilities find jobs, but she has mostly declined to answer questions from reporters at the Capitol, leaving voters in the deep red state with a choice between backing a conservative with well-documented positions or a candidate with the president's support. Third, in Wisconsin, the front-runner for the state's Democratic nomination for governor is Francesca Hong, a Democratic socialist. That is notable in a state where Republican and Democratic voters are about evenly split. Hong, a state lawmaker, has consistently polled ahead of her more moderate, better-funded rivals. Some mainstream Democrats favor her opponent, David Crowley, out of fear that her left-wing views would turn away moderate voters. Hong has argued for abolishing ICE, has previously said the police exist to uphold white supremacy, and called for Thanksgiving to be cancelled, a stance that has drawn attention after her old social media posts resurfaced. Her campaign has benefited from an aggressive, old-fashioned ground operation. In chilly weather, volunteers wearing Hong t-shirts turned out in significant numbers at a No Kings protest in Milwaukee, while other candidates rely more on charisma, fundraising, or opponents' mistakes. Beyond these 3 races, the Trump administration is making a push to deport non-citizens who registered to vote, even if they did so inadvertently or never cast ballots, a move that helps promote baseless claims of widespread voter fraud. When asked about Democratic midterm candidates, Trump said there were jihadists being elected all over the place. Turning to international news, a powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake rocked western Colombia on Monday morning. Rescue crews and regular people searched for survivors, and the death toll was given as at least 111, with 87 others injured. More than 1,500 homes, 18 health centers and 52 schools were damaged, and the toll is likely to rise as rescue efforts continue. The quake was the strongest to hit Colombia in at least a decade, and its epicenter lay in one of the country's poorest areas. Among those who survived were Winder and Davy Delfin, brothers aged 15 and 17 who lost their mother, younger brother and grandmother in Venezuela's earthquakes in June. After a 26-day search for their loved ones' bodies, they moved to Cali, Colombia, where their father works as a barber, and they survived this latest quake as well. In the latest news, President Trump hid in an airport catering container and was taken to a military jet for a secret flight out of Turkey after the NATO summit last month, because of a threat from Iran against him and Air Force One. Todd Blanche was sworn in as Attorney General after a turbulent nomination process. During those hearings he made it clear that he believes President Trump possesses a nearly limitless right to directly control the actions of the Justice Department. Traffic to Trump's social media platform, Truth Social, has fallen sharply this summer, with monthly visitors down about 36% from a year ago according to estimates from the tracking firm SimilarWeb, reflecting double-digit declines in June and July. Senator Bernie Sanders called on the nation's top artificial intelligence companies to pause development, warning that corporations have already lost control of models that could cause potentially cataclysmic results for millions of people. In a letter to the CEOs of OpenAI, Anthropic and Meta, he argued that the threshold for safe management has recently been passed. On health, President Trump signed an executive order calling for American children to be routinely immunized against 11 diseases rather than the 17 currently recommended by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The order also directs the Attorney General to advance legal challenges against states that violate children's rights to religious or medical vaccinations. Decades of scientific evidence contradict Trump's claims that vaccines are unsafe, overtax the immune system, or cause autism. A fact check after the Oval Office event announcing the order noted his false suggestions that vaccines were linked to autism and that the combined measles, mumps, and rubella shot could be lethal. Meanwhile, fertility doctors are using artificial intelligence to help men with extremely low sperm counts have biological children. The technology can spot hidden sperm in cases where a typical semen sample contains hundreds of millions of sperm, but men with azoospermia have zero or very few, offering hope to those facing obstructive or non-obstructive infertility. In the Middle East, Iran said on Monday that any deal with Oman on shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz would not lead to the waterway being fully reopened, and that the route will remain closed until the United States agrees to demands including lifting a naval blockade. Iran sees its grip on the strait, which has driven up global energy prices, as its best form of leverage in negotiations with Washington. President Trump is eager to declare success and move on from the wars in Iran and Gaza, but a stark reminder of the limits of U.S. power came from Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared he was ruling out Mr. Trump's peace plan for Gaza. Around the world, Raul G. Rodriguez Castro, a scion of the Castro family, has been talking with top Trump administration officials. His ambition is to become president of Cuba, according to people close to him, and he has also been linked to the Cuban mafia. Taiwan cut off internet access for 30 minutes on Monday to test how people would respond if Chinese forces did so, throttling mobile data across central Taiwan and leaving millions unable to stream videos or share photos. Russia's Supreme Court barred the country's only anti-war party, Yabloko, from running in next month's parliamentary elections, upholding a lawsuit that argued the party's pro-peace manifesto had become a red line for an increasingly heavy-handed Kremlin. Other big stories include a tragic sightseeing boat capsized near the Statue of Liberty on Saturday night. A 27-year-old woman and her 5-month-old daughter died, the boat's captain was arrested, and investigators are focusing on the operator and the captain. Workers at a facility that provides in-flight meals to some of the nation's busiest airports said in a complaint filed with the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health that they had been exposed to cockroaches, maggots, and mold, and also reported insufficient or non-existent soap and drying paper in restrooms. Regarding the border wall, President Trump promised to wall off the southwestern border. His administration struggled to build much during his first term as Democrats in Congress resisted funding, so he mostly replaced existing barriers. His second term is different. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed last year included almost $47 billion for wall building, which is more than all border wall spending over the past 20 years combined. Maps show how the new barriers will be erected. In opinion pieces, a guest essay by Ben Rhodes follows Rob Sand, the Iowa state auditor running for governor with the slogan Costs, Corruption, and Cancer. Rhodes recounts conversations with Iowans who attribute leukemia to herbicides or pesticides and who spend thousands on home systems to filter nitrates from drinking water, asking whether Sand can break the Republican grip on red states. Another guest essay by Paul Goldberger warns that the proposed Arc de Trump monument in Washington would be a gaudy skyscraper-sized construction that, if built, would dramatically reshape the nation's capital, noting that making it easier to demolish historic buildings could allow Trump to reshape sites across the country. In the Morning Reads section, Associated Press and Agence France Presse report that air-conditioned clothing and refrigerators for humans are helping people in Asia cope with extreme heat, describing innovations such as semiconductor-powered handheld fans that generate a chill likened to holding a cold drink against the neck. An off-script item ponders what happens when a driverless car encounters fireworks on the Golden Gate Bridge. The most clicked link in yesterday's morning was about how climate change is affecting chili farmers in Pakistan, noting that traditional cultivation methods may not survive soaring costs and shifting weather patterns, prompting farmers to adapt. Metropolitan Diary recounted a New Yorker's encounter with a squirrel that pounced on an apple and scampered a few steps away. Here Lies Dobby described how fans of the Harry Potter series assembled a real memorial to the freed house elf on a Welsh beach, and in 2019 protested when a planned UK Ireland power cable threatened to run through the grave, causing the project to change its route. Free climber Jake Weissenen set a record for one of the fastest ascents of El Capitan, the granite monolith in Yosemite National Park, before dying in a climbing accident at age 30. Today's number highlights a new French law. Companies that make unsolicited telemarketing calls can now be fined up to $433,000, and for calls targeting vulnerable individuals the penalty can rise to 5 years in prison and a fine of $578,000. In sports, UEFA, CONCACAF and the Asian Football Confederation continue to call for Gianni Infantino's resignation as president of FIFA, while President Trump still backs him. In Olympic news, U.S. middle distance runner Jonah Koch, a hopeful for the 2028 Los Angeles Games, has accepted a 3-year ban for blood doping, making him ineligible to compete through July 17, 2029, and requiring him to forfeit all medals, points, and prizes won since his first abnormal blood sample in July 2025. The recipe of the day offers a take on esquites. Chef Elijah DeLeon turns grilled corn mixed with mayonnaise, cotija, chili flakes and lime into a charred corn and cheddar salad, dressed with a simple aioli that adds the zing of garlic and Dijon, and topped with sliced shishito peppers for a fresh, grassy Christmas. Still, the one notes that Post Malone says he listens to Shania Twain before going on stage. Rihanna ranks her in the pantheon of divas alongside Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, and Diplo described meeting her as face-melting. More than 30 years after her first #1 hit, Twain remains one of the hottest acts around. More on culture. The director of Heated Rivalry, the unauthorized musical parody, planned 2 performances, now running in New York until at least November, and has spawned productions in Canada and Britain. Jason Ardy's memoir Great and Unfortunate Things is coming out tomorrow after he resigned from Cambridge amid accusations of plagiarism and embellishment. Late-night hosts have wondered whether President Trump wore a wig, with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt insisting lighting is everything. The Morning recommends, per Liam Cobb, that a nature walk can improve your attention span, that a Mediterranean-style diet supports better gut health, and that you take notes with affordable yet satisfying pens recommended by Wirecutter. Finally, for games, here is today's spelling bee. Yesterday's pangram was glamour, and you can also try the mini crossword, Wordle, connections, crossplay, and strands. Thanks for spending part of your morning with the Times. See you tomorrow.